all the way back in the book of Genesis, chapter 22 is where we'll be at today. We're going to look at the story of a man who became a dad and showed his son what real faith looked like. Okay? Now, we all have opportunities as we grow up and we have children. We get to show them um, about anything we want to show them, right? And we do. And our kids are watching us and they are checking us out and they are listening to every word we say because they know that if daddy does it, then that gives you an excuse to at least be like daddy, right? So that's what a lot of people over the years have done. And now my generation is really just messing up a lot. I'm gonna be honest with you. Friends of mine started telling their children to um, decide for themselves what they want to do, be, eat, to wear, to listen to, watch on TV. Just do what you want to do, what makes you happy. This done trickled in, and man, I'm gonna tell you something. It ain't going so well, man. The reason being is that a lot of the people, when left to their own devices and their own choices, they're not choosing God. They need some examples set before them to show them, like, hey, y'all see this guy right here? Y'all remember Sonny Grice, right? Been a deacon down at that Baptist church for years and years and years. Seems like he's had a pretty blessed life, all things considered. Had love and kids and grandkids and a house and all that stuff. People look at him and they want to know, well, what's so different about you, Sonny? What's so different about you, James? What's so different about you? James will be quick to tell you, love the Lord. I'm sure you told your kids that, right? Y'all have heard that from your daddy, haven't you? Love the Lord. Put the Lord first. Put God first. Put God first. Sonny been saying that as long as I've known him. That's all that God wants as Father. He just wants us to love Him. And when we, as earthly fathers, earthly parents, goes for the ladies too, okay? When we, as earthly parents, love God the way that God created us to, He gave us a wonderful opportunity, ability. We have the capabilities, not just the abilities, but we have the capabilities with God, our Creator, to where you can pick up His channel no matter where you are. You can talk to God. No matter where you are, you can talk to God. Now, when I'm having trouble with my kids, oh, but you have freaking, they're perfect, right? They do everything correct, right? Yeah, where they at? Yeah. They don't always listen. They don't always watch the example set before. Sometimes even they try to do the opposite of that. They got this idea in their mind, like George Costanza. We're going to do the opposite. All right, that's what we're going to do because we've always done what we've been told to do, and that's been one result. But now we're going to do the opposite of that. Has your children ever maybe not said it? Kids, maybe you never told nobody. But some days you just get up and you want to do the opposite of everything. You got any teachers in here? I promise you can testify to this. That some days kids are contrary. If you told them to sit down, they're going to stand up. You tell them to stand up, the way it is. We have to set the standard at our home, at the kitchen table, and at the bedtime story as the example, number one example in a child's life. Now, some of you, as you get on with the grandkids are a beautiful concept because you can get that kid to fall in love with you because you don't got to put in 8 hours before, all right? But about an hour, oh, you done spoke everything mom and daddy need to know. earned it. Let me tell you, Dad, you have earned it. You can get down there and play with your kids and all of a bad. Pawpaw and Pawpaw got them wound up. Now Pawpaw can just take a nap. Mom and Daddy can't. It's a beautiful thing to be able to set an example in the family, in front of the kids, and to interact with one another. And the only thing that we have to do is just love. That's it. Just give love to our family. That is all that God wants us to do. Okay? Now, the story of Abraham here and how he gave love to his family is a very unique story and what he went through, but I think a lot of us can relate to it. So we're going to go through that today in Genesis 22. That's where we're going to be at. Now, at this point, to give you a little backstory, if you don't know, if you hadn't remembered it yet, Abraham was promised to have a child, and that child was going to be the father of many nations. Okay? His seed was going to, Abraham's seed was going to continue on, and his family was going to multiply, and God told him that his descendants were going to be as numerous as the stars in the sky, the sand on the beach. Okay? Now, in order to have that many descendants, you got to have at least one kid, right? Because you can't have descendants if you don't have any. If you're stuck on zero, it's hard to get past zero. Finally, after they tried to help God, God finally allowed him to have the promise. He was 100 years old. Now, I know what my God can do. Some of y'all need to be scared. Because there ain't nobody in here 100 yet. That means that if God so decided to, any of y'all, Sonny, Sonny's like, I had to get married and everything. If it's God's will, and it was God's will in Abraham's life for him to wait till he was 100 to have this kid, when Isaac, his son, his promised son, was 17 years old, God came to Abraham with a very weird request. It was a test. But let me tell you something. We don't never know when God is going to allow us to put through the test or the ringer or the wine press or the tragedy merry-go-round. We don't know when God is going to allow us to get put in one. But when God allows you to be taken from one season to another, from one place to another, what God is doing is opening up tremendous opportunities. Now all of a sudden you're in a different place than you were. Now all of a sudden you're able to do something different than you were before. Now you 117-year-old man with a teenager. What are you going to do? Cut on Van Halen and smoke cigars? What is happening? What are you about to do with this kid, Abraham? What did God tell you to do with him? Sometime later, God tested Abraham. He said to him in Genesis 22:1, he said, Abraham. Abraham said, here I am. Then God said, take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains I will tell you about. Did you catch that? He didn't tell him to take him to Disney World. He didn't tell him to take him out to eat. He didn't tell him to go to a bouncy house. He said, take your son, your only son. Don't mix it up. Take your son, go to Mount Moriah, and kill him. sacrifice him there as a burnt offering. Now, what they would do with a burnt offering is a burnt offering was an atonement for sin. They would bring it to the temple, and what they would do is they would bring their their best animal, a little white lamb or dove or pigeon, one without blemish, the best they had to give, and they would put it on the altar, and that would be like sacrificing. All right, and what would happen was you sacrificed that to pay for your sin, and that blood that was shed on the altar, God considered it a valid payment for sin. Blood had to be shed, right? Now here God is telling Abraham, he's 117 years old. I want you to go and walk for 3 days, old guy. 3 days in the wilderness. And when you get to the top of Mount Moriah, I want you to sacrifice your son. I want you to build an altar there out of wood, which is a fancy name for a wood pile. All right? I want you to lay him on there, pick up your knife, stab him in the heart, and then set him on fire. And that will atone for your sin. Hey, look, sin is a big problem. You know, like tattling, telling lies, acting up, disrespect, fighting, all of those things. That's the reason why stuff like that happens. Because the stuff we got in here. God wanted to do something about it. And God was about to teach not only Abraham and Isaac, but the rest of mankind a lesson. So, when they got up on the top of the mountain, Isaac says, this is in verse number 7, he says, the fire and the wood are here. Where's the lamb for the burnt offering? He done got all the way to the top of the mountain, toted the wood and the fire and the knife himself. About like Jesus toted the cross. Got all the way up to the top of the mountain, and he wondered, Daddy, where's the sacrifice? He trusted his dad. Daddy ain't never stirred him wrong before. So he asked his dad, Dad, where's the lamb? Abraham says in verse number 8, God himself will provide the lamb, burnt offering. And the two of them went on together. They reached the place God told him about. Abraham built an altar there, and he arranged wood on it, and he bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. If I'm 17 years old and a man that's about 117 trying to tie me up, to burn me up, I'm running away from him. I don't think he can keep up with me. I mean, if we're on top of a mountain, I'm at least jumping off a cliff. You know what I'm saying? He trusted him. He allowed his daddy to bind him, just like Jesus allowed the nails to be driven. So when the sacrifice comes from God, he just reaches. Smells like God. It is. And here God brings this man, the father of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Israel, the line of, brings him up on the top of his hill with his son. It says, so Abraham built that thing and he bound his son on it and he laid him on top of the wood. It says in verse number 10, then he reached out his hand, he took the knife to slay his son, but the angel of the Lord called out to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. He said, here I am. The angel said, do not lay a hand on the boy. Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God because you have not withheld your son from me, your only son from me. You were willing to give up your only son for me. I will. And it says that Abraham looked up, there in the thicket, saw a ram. That's one of the horns on it. Because it's a lot easier to catch one with horns on it. Thicket, right? But God thought of all the things. This thing probably had corkscrew horns and wrapped up the thing, right? That's how it's done. You don't believe me? Look it up. So Abraham looked up, and there in the thicket he saw a ram caught by its horns, and he went over and took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering instead of his son. Can you imagine what Abraham felt like going over there and getting this ram out of the thicket, knowing in his heart he was like 1 minute or 1 second really away from plunging a knife into his son's chest? He was about to do it though. Hebrews 11, I believe it's 9 or 19. In Hebrews chapter 11, it says that Abraham, by faith, went to offer Isaac as an offering, believing that God was going to resurrect him. So we know from reading over in Hebrews what was really going on in his mind. He was thinking as he raised that knife that God wanted him to do this, to prove something, for whatever reason. God had a reason, and he was trusting God's reason. And that's how it's going to be. That's how it's going to be. He trusted God's reason. He trusted. He believed that he was going to have to actually kill his son, and then God was going to bring him back to life, and it was for the glory of God. Abraham knew that God could do anything. He believed that he could do anything. He believed that he was going to do this. So Abraham was like, play my part. I don't have any power. All I can do is what God wants. I believe that God will provide. It says when he looked over and he sacrificed that thing, Abraham called that place Jehovah Jireh. The Lord will provide. God always provides for his children. We can go through scripture after scripture after scripture. The Bible tells us Matthew, Jesus said, do not worry. The Lord will provide it. He takes care of the flowers in the field. They not worried about what they're going to wear on. He takes care of it. The birds, they're not worried about where they're going to live. He gives them the ability to build a nest. I've got some little, what do they call them, swifties? They big fellas swift. And they like to build nests on the side of the house. Y'all know these have some kind of advanced farming horses. They spit on the bricks, and they just keep spitting on the bricks, and then boom, they've got a little hut made out of bird spit. They just keep on. So, I mean, if you've got time, try it. Not over here, but, somewhere else. Try to build you a spit hut. Go ahead. But God gave them the ability to do that. I don't know how they do it, but it's pretty amazing that you can whittle little pieces of wood, put them up, and hang up compact discs so they look like big owl eyes, and all kinds of manner of man's thinking combat these birds. And these birds just roll up. Not worried about it at all. Doing what they were created to do, right? Jesus told us, don't worry. God provides. Jehovah Jireh. God provides. Abraham knew that God was going to provide. Isaac was taught that day in a very clear way that God provides. What will God not provide? What do you think God won't give you? What do you want that you can't get? We don't really want to ask God much. I mean, we want our kids to be alive when we get back from Mount Moriah, right? That's a pretty reasonable reason. We want them to be examples Listen to this in verse number 15. The angel of the Lord called to Abraham from heaven a second time. And he said, I swear by myself, declares the Lord, that because you have done this, and you have not withheld your son, your only son, I will surely bless you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as the sand on the seashore. Your descendants will take possession of the cities of their enemies. And through your offspring, all nations on earth will be blessed because you have obeyed me. That day, Father Abraham got all of us blessed. You understand? You look in the book of Romans, chapter 10 and 11, where Paul is stating that now we are the engrafted branches into Israel. You're part of Israel now. You are part of the Abraham promise. God said that he was going to bless us with many nations, with many people, with many descendants. And they are all going to do it for the glory of God. We're going to come together. We're going to live forever. Because God made it possible through the sacrifice of his son Jesus, who one day he decided to lead him up a mountain with his own death device on his back. And as he laid on it, there was no sacrifice left to be made because the one perfect sacrifice that could pay for the sins of all mankind was laying on the cross. God sent his son. See, just like Abraham willingly went because he knew, he believed, he trusted, I'm going to get my son back. God gave his son that day knowing what he was going to go through, but he also knew he was getting his son. He knew he was getting him out of that grave. He knew that he was not going to stay dead. He knew he was going to bring him up. He knew that he was going to sit right beside him. The throne chair was already fixed up. But still, God had to allow something bad to go on. Let me tell you something. Daddy's kingdom from all harm. They will try. They do their best. Some of them die trying. The daddies have an opportunity to try to do what God wants us to do in our family. Usually the number one act. Fathers have to give their time. They have to give their quietness. They have to give their bathroom time up. All kinds of things. And ladies, you do too. I get it. But a man don't really want much. He just wants some quiet every now and then, and some food to eat every now and again. Don't walk in front of him with football game. That's about it. Pretty simple Greek, really. That's about it. They will go and get a haircut when you tell them. That will happen. They will, for the most part, pay the wife that thing. Sometimes they'll even hold still for things like nose hair, ear hair, something of that sort. You want to doll them up. Fathers are created a very particular way by God the Father, because God the Father knows what it takes to be a father. He knows what it takes. He knows how to provide. He knows how to care. He knows how to listen. God Almighty is the one who has modeled what fatherhood looks like for us. He gave his son. He was willing to sacrifice. But he knew at the end of it all, the reason God made everything, the earth, heaven, the reason God made your soul, the reason he made hell, the reason God made everything, and it's a simple thing. Y'all, listen. God just wants you to love him for real. That's all. And that's why he created hell. That's why he gave us free will, choice. And in that, opening up the opportunity for sin to come into existence. God didn't create sin. Sin is what happens to human beings, the choice. And we choose sin. And God, He knew that we would choose sin. He said, not only do I know that they're going to choose sin, but I'm going to make a way for them to come back. And He knew that every but He made us anyway. Because before sin ever sin. You got to know that before He ever made the earth at all, He knew He was going to have to do something about sin. God did know. And He already had a plan. And He said, in year zero, I am going to show them the greatest act of love that the world has. I'm going to show you how much I love you. The story of Jesus, that last week of His life, that was full of passion for Christ, where He went to the Last Supper and went from trial to trial, scourged and flogged, the time that He spent at the trial, where people cried for Him to be crucified. Then they placed the cross on Him. He walked up the road. He got to the top of the hill. He laid down on the cross. They nailed Him through His skin instead of tying Him up. They nailed Him through His hands because that's what you do when you're trying to be beat. And they hung Him up there in the air there between two thieves. There He hung. He took all in that moment. God to pay a sacrifice. God knew that He wasn't going to stay dead in that hole. They put Him in a hole that afternoon, covered Him up with a bunch of aloe vera joints, all kind of gooey stuff, like 70 pounds of it. Rolled Him up in some cloths and throwed Him in that hole, put a big old rock on it, run wax all around the seal, put seals all around. Nobody can get in this thing. Jesus is dead and gone. It meant nothing. That's what the they did not know that God the Father was up to the greatest plan. In 3 days later, that big old stone, seal was broke, stone was thrown away, angels not, not just back alive, resurrected. Resurrected. It wasn't to bring the soul back to that old dead body. Resurrection, raising this dead body incorruptible with no sin or flaw whatsoever till the end of time. So this resurrected body is not that old, not that old human. This one's gonna live forever. This one runs off of unleaded. Okay? You don't got to go and eat all the stuff that you have to eat now to keep your body going, keep your body right. I'm low on iron. Well, I better go eat a rock. No, you ain't got to worry about none of that stuff now. All right? You'll be fine. Don't eat rocks. I was kidding. He don't know. Relax. Okay? Not a doctor. Today, we know how to be dads. We know how much God loves us. And we can see that if God did it for this guy, I believe that God will do it for this guy. I believe that God wants to be the best father possible. Guys, if you are struggling being a dad, don't give up. Don't give up now. If you made it to today, all right, just make it through today. You wake up tomorrow, just make it through tomorrow. Daddy ain't been a good example. Well, change family. Dad, resurrect me. You want to be born again today? Are you ready to start over with God today? Are you ready to finally be born into the family of God to where you don't just have some father living off in Clay County or Cooper County, but no, you got a father living off in heaven who is eternal, lives forever, died for you, is going to come back and get you, and is going to make a place for you. You can live forever and ever and ever with him. You can have that father today. And if you've got kids, be that father today. Be somebody that's a good example, somebody that kids can look up to, somebody that kids glad when you come in instead of shuddering. Be somebody that kids want to spend time. Be their make them a great father. You need to talk to God. Let's all stand. We're going to sing an invitational hymn. You need to pray, get down on your knees, or anything else at all. Like